If you'd told me years ago that the most defining battle of my life wouldn't be fought in a war zone, but on a quiet Georgia back road, I'd have laughed it off. And yet that's exactly how my story unfolded, with blue police lights flashing in my rearview mirror on an ordinary evening, as I drove my rental car home after grabbing my niece's graduation outfit, thinking of nothing but family, old memories, and the sweet taste of my sister's famous cornbread. But fate had different plans, and what should have been a simple drive turned into the moment when two local cops decided I was just another black woman who needed to be put in her place. Never mind the name on my ID or the years I'd spent earning my stars, because to them, I was only General Oprah, a joke in their eyes, someone they could handcuff and humiliate, never suspecting that the woman in front of them had spent nearly 3 decades serving her country in every hellhole the world had to offer, or that the little button I pressed on my smartwatch would set off a chain of events reaching far beyond this sleepy town, all the way to the Pentagon and the halls of Congress. I'd come home as Lieutenant General Denise Harris, but to my family, I was just Denny, the big sister who'd gone off to see the world. And as I pulled into our old driveway in Ashwood, Georgia, with the sun sinking behind the pines and my niece Autumn bursting out the front door, her arms flung wide, for a moment, all the weight of command and combat and loss faded, replaced by the simple warmth of home, of hugs that said, "You made it back," of laughter over cornbread and stories traded deep into the night, of my sister Tanya shaking her head and saying, "Mama would be so proud, but she'd still fuss about you tracking mud on her floors." We talked about everything and nothing. Autumn's nerves for her big day, Tanya's stories from the school where she worked, my own wanderings, and for a little while I could almost believe I'd finally found peace, that here I was safe, that here I was just another face in the crowd. But peace has always been a temporary visitor in my life. And that night Autumn remembered she'd forgotten her cap and gown at the rental shop on Miller Road. Panic setting in because they'd close early the next day. So I offered to go. No big deal. I told her I could use a drive. And anyway, couldn't have my favorite niece graduating without the proper attire, right? So off I went, passing the church where I was baptized, the high school I'd hated and loved, the old store where I'd spent my first allowance. The town hadn't changed much, new chain restaurants maybe, a shopping center, but still the same Ashwood I'd always known. Mrs. Ferguson at the rental shop recognized me, and when I mentioned my military service, she smiled, said, "Your mama would be so proud, General." And in that moment, for just a second, I felt the kind of pride that comes not from medals but from roots, from belonging. It was the last time that evening I'd feel safe. Heading back, night settling in, I took the scenic route home, windows down, crickets singing, thinking about how some places seem unchanged by time, how they cling to their secrets. Until I noticed the police cruiser sliding in behind me, keeping distance at first, then matching my every move. I checked my speed, not a mile over the limit. My hands went instinctively to the wheel, my posture stiffening, the old familiar tension crawling up my back. I'd been here before, too many times, being watched, followed, judged. The blue lights flashed, sharp as a slap. I pulled over, hazards on, window down, hands visible. Every step I'd taught my soldiers about dealing with authority, and yet I knew from the way the older cop, Mitchum, stomped over, flashlight in my face. This wasn't about a broken law. It was about sending a message. He didn't care about my documentation, barely looked at my military ID, just barked, "Step out of the vehicle," his hand near his gun. And when I calmly asked why, his partner, Sharp, muttered something about a stolen car. Description matching, black female, silver sedan. I explained, "This is a rental. Everything's in order. Can I get my papers?" Slowly, Mitchum growled. And I did. "Careful as you please." But it didn't matter. He laughed when he saw my ID, called me General Oprah like it was some joke, and before I knew it, my hands were behind my back, cold steel on my wrists, humiliation burning where bullets never had. They paraded me like a trophy, ignoring my request to verify my identity, ignoring every law they swore to uphold. Across the road, a young man named Marcus Williams watched, phone trembling in his hand, knowing what happened to black folks in Ashwood who crossed the line. He tried to record, but Mitchum snatched his phone, crushed it under his boot, sneered, "Accidents happen," and sent Marcus off into the darkness with a threat to eye in the back of that cruiser. I felt a different kind of fear than I'd ever known. Not the kind you face on a battlefield, but the fear that your own country, your own people, could turn on you so easily, erasing everything you are in an instant. Still, I wasn't powerless. With my hands cuffed, I triggered my smartwatch's emergency signal, a direct line to the Pentagon, a code only used when everything is on the line. At the Pentagon, my old friend Colonel Sarah Martinez saw the signal, code black, and set things in motion that would have seemed unthinkable just hours before. Jet engines warming, special forces on standby, every lever of military power primed to respond. Meanwhile, at Ashwood PD, I was booked and processed with deliberate humiliation, mugshot, fingerprints, snide comments about uppity generals and CEOs who think they're special, locked in a holding cell that smelled of bleach and despair, my dignity the only thing I had left. But I remembered, as I closed my eyes, the faces of soldiers who trusted me with their lives, and I told myself, they're coming. The chief, Barbara Stroud, fielded calls from the governor's office, the Pentagon, even the media, but the department closed ranks, denying everything, spinning lies about procedure and cooperation, trying to paint me as a liar or a criminal. But the world had changed. Marcus, whose phone had been smashed, discovered the backup had uploaded to the cloud. Soon, the footage was online, spreading fast. #Lady in Cuffs trending. And what the Ashwood cops thought they could keep hidden was now national news. At the Pentagon, General Harlan Reese took charge, using satellite feeds, DoD assets, and the loyalty of old comrades to locate me, expose the cover-up, and force the system's hand. Inside Ashwood PD, Officer Nia Turner, just 6 months on the job, saw through the charade. She'd noticed my bearing, my tattoos, the respect I commanded even in cuffs, and later, hearing Mitchum brag to his buddies about putting someone in their place, she recorded everything, her loyalty not to the badge, but to the truth. Under mounting pressure, calls from the state attorney general, the Pentagon, and now viral outrage, Chief Stroud finally caved. At 3 a.m., she unlocked my cell, wordless, handed me my belongings. No apology, just proper procedures were followed. Outside, the media and protesters had gathered, lights blazing, questions flying, but I walked past them all, climbed into my car, and drove home, not defeated, not broken, but angry, determined, and ready for what came next. What came next was war, not with guns, but with lawyers, journalists, and the raw power of public opinion. Deputy Mayor Hayes showed up at my sister's house with apologies and hush money. I sent him packing. I called Jeremiah Cole, a civil rights attorney unafraid of dirty fights, and with the help of Nia, Marcus, and allies in the military, we pulled at every thread, exposing a network of corruption reaching from Ashwood PD to state politics and a private security company funneling money and ideology into local law enforcement. The evidence was damning. Financial records, online posts, recordings of Mitchum and Stroud openly discussing targeting uppity minorities, a deliberate plot to send a message. As we went public, the backlash grew, threats, vandalism, even the burning of a cross on Nia's lawn, but we didn't back down. In fact, the harassment only drew more attention. Congress launched an investigation. General Reese and other military leaders had my back, though some, fearing the political fallout, pressured me to retire quietly, to let the story die. But I thought about every soldier who'd ever looked to me for courage, every citizen who'd ever been wronged and silenced, and I knew I couldn't walk away. When we finally got our day in court, the truth exploded. Digital forensics tied the police union's legal defense funds to a protection racket spanning several states. Whistleblowers came forward, the press published every ugly detail, and on the stand, even Mitchum admitted to targeting me for my race and status. Chief Stroud, Senator Weber, and their private security allies faced justice, guilty of conspiracy, abuse of power, and civil rights violations. The aftermath reshaped everything. The Ashwood Police Department was disbanded, new laws for body cameras and whistleblower protection were passed, and a national conversation about the real cost of silence began to in the end. I retired not in disgrace, but with my head held high, honored for my service, not just in war, but in standing up when it mattered most. Nia Turner went on to lead a National Police Ethics Board. Marcus used his experience to advocate for tech and civil rights. And my niece Autumn launched a youth activism group, her courage forged in the fire of our fight. They tried to silence me, but all they did was amplify the call for justice, for integrity, for a country that lives up to its own ideals.